Well, hello there, good evening and welcome. And yes, you're definitely going to hear us roar. It's Strong and Sassy here on your superstation Joy 99.7 FM. My name is Animwaa Anim-Addo, and as always, we're here for about an hour. Now, today we're having a conversation that is a very emotional one. It's about children. And anything to do with children can be very emotional. But tonight we're talking about baby shaming and the pressure that society puts on women to have children. It's almost as if we can't decide to choose whether we want to or not, when we want to or not, or even how we want to. And so we'll be having that conversation tonight. Joining me, I have two firsts, so two guests whose first time it is on Strong and Sassy. And then I have one of my regular assassins also joining us. So let me start in-house. We have Marilyn Suter, Mrs. Marilyn Suter. She's joining us this evening without her husband. Those of you who listen to us know that Marilyn's husband is always not too far away. From her when she comes on the show. Hi, how is hubby?
He's fine. He extends his greetings.
Sending kisses. I'm sure he's listening.
Oh, sure. I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. And then joining us on Zoom, we have two guests. So we have Whitney Boache Mensah. She's the managing partner, innovation, and the founder of My Dear Sister's Keeper, the Wininitiative. I hope I got that right. The Wininitiative. I love that. So Whitney also joining us for the first time. And then guess what, guys? We are breaking the molds. So, for the first time in a really long time, we have a guy.
Woo.
Yes, on Strong and Sassy. I know that for a lot of you, this means that the floodgates are open. Therefore, there'll be men on all the men have been fighting to have a say.
Wow.
But yeah, joining us tonight is Adolf Ewuku Bekwe. He'll be bringing us a very different perspective, talking about the mental health side, and he's also an advocate as well for baby shaming and against baby shaming and all of that. So that's us tonight. Hi, Marilyn.
Hi, Animwaa.
Let me just pop on Zoom quickly and see if my guests on Zoom can hear me. Hello, Whitney. Hello, Adolf.
Hi.
Hi. Good evening to both of you. You're welcome.
Events WBM and the W Initiative. So just a quick correction.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
My company is Innovations Events WBM.
Okay.
And it's My Dear Sister's Keeper GH and the W Initiative. So just that correction.
Okay, all right, okay. Really sorry about that, but thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time out to be here with us tonight. Hello, Adolf.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes. Good evening.
A voice for the male population of Ghana.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
All right, okay. So I'm going to start in studio. Marilyn, you don't have kids.
Yeah.
What's that like? Not yet.
Oh, well, normal for me because I do not allow these things to bother me. I feel that when they have to come, they will come. But while they have not come, there's still a lot more to do. So I take advantage of their absence to pursue everything that I have to pursue. Now, I take it as God has given me time to be able to catch up with certain things before they come in. Because when they come in, they are beautiful gifts, but they also take a lot of time.
Of course, and money.
Exactly. So you need to be ready and be in that situation to be able to take care of them comfortably. I'm not saying that so everyone must wait till they have a truckload of money or a house full of money before you take care of children. But if you have that time to prepare, all the better. So it shouldn't be anything that anyone should really cry so much about. But I do understand that people get into very uncomfortable situations because of society. Anyway, I can tell you that many people who don't have children really are not that bothered until society comes in. it's society that makes the whole thing so worse and makes it feel that there is just something incomplete about you until you have children. Your being a woman is not complete, and in Africa we place so much premium on having children, so much so that even when a woman is growing and there is no sign of a good suitor, you can be encouraged to at least have children. So that's how much value we place on children. Someone would not mind not having a house of their own, not having a car of their own, but at least they have children. To them, that is something of prestige. Oh, woma. Aha. Oh, worry. Oh, but wow.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I get that.
Aha.
I get that.
So that's just how it is. But honestly, for me, I'm fine.
Outside of society's precious. Inside, you're fine.
I'm fine.
Wow. Whitney, let me come to you. So Marilyn is talking about the fact that on the inside, most women who don't have children yet are not too bothered until society starts to put pressure on them. So my question is, why does society still put so much pressure on women to have children?
It is not just society. I have come to learn that sometimes it is even us women ourselves, because we've been brought up, shaped, doctrines have sort of given us timelines for everything in life. Oh, you need to go to school. When you're done with school, you find a job. When you find a job, then you move on to having children. So if at any point in time you are not doing things said way, then it means that you have sort of failed at what you're supposed to do as a woman. So sometimes it's not even society, but it's because this is how we've been brought up and shaped. So we think that at a certain point in my life, if I don't do it like that, then it means I failed. And one of the things that for us on My Dear Sister Skipper GH, we are trying to break is the fact that, like the first speaker said, society seemed to tie a woman's worth, a woman's success to the fact that she's had kids, she's married. And what we try to tell most people most of the time is that marriage, kids are all compliments that happen in life. Prior to all of that, you are very, very phenomenal. You are whole. There's nothing wrong with you. And if we can believe that, you can actually say it to somebody, but it's they believing that makes the whole point worth it. So that is the norm we are trying to break, to let people know that, listen, you're worth your whole, with or without all these things. They are compliments and blessings that happens in life.
Also, to do with the fact that women having children has to sort of run against a particular timeline, because we're not like men who can have kids like at whatever age. So is it more of an encouragement or a criticism?
It is also it's a fact. I can't deny that chances of having a baby, they're prime chances, and as you grow older, that declines. But thankfully now there are options of what you can do. It's just unfortunate that even in our system, there's so much ignorance that even when people do IVF, they are still looked at. Listen, when people even have cesarean sections, I am one of those people who is very, very loud about how people seem to judge you and say that you do not even birth right if you do not have a VD as compared to a cesarean section. And I think that is very crass, because you end up seeing women losing their lives because they've been indoctrinated so much to think that, okay, so if you even have a child and you have it via CS, then you really haven't had the child. And these are the same people that if you have IVF, they have problems with. If you use surrogacy, they have problems with. If you you adopt a baby, they have a problem with. And people need to come to a point in their lives where they realize that people will talk regardless of whatever it is. Even if you have quote unquote natural delivery and you have all girls, society will ask you where is a boy. If you have all boys, society will ask you where is a girl. People will talk regardless. It is up to you to know who you are, up to you to decide what you want to do with your life. I have seen people who are now taking bold steps and taking challenges upon themselves and saying that, listen, I'm at a certain age. It hasn't happened. But I feel like I can, walk into a hospital, a good hospital, and ask that I want to have a procedure where I know my eggs are safe in storage. And when it is time for me to have that, that will happen. So then in their prime years, they get to pick the eggs that they are as active and won't decline as later years when they hit with life issues. So there are options. And I don't think I always say that I would rather a responsible late parent than an irresponsible very early parent, and they have no qualms about the fact that they've taken that decision and it's worked for them.
I remember a few years ago, I had an experience with actually when I was pregnant with my son, and this man of God just met me and decided that he was going to pray for me, and he was so on the against cesarean thing, against cesarean, and I was thinking, like 100 years ago, so many women died because their babies were breech. And we hadn't developed the art of the perfect cesarean. And so, we were losing a lot of mothers. But if there's an emergency and a cesarean is such the obvious and safe way to deliver the baby, then why must there be a problem? Also, actually, the recovery time for cesarean is way longer than the recovery time for natural childbirth. I mean, if you have a baby naturally, within a day or so, you're up and walking, you're fine. If you have a C-section for 6 weeks, you've had stitches. It's 7 layers of tissue and muscle that you're cutting into. I mean, so let's kind of just be a bit more informed about some of these things so that we're not just passing judgment on things we don't know about. And I think that's what really gets me upset about this, is how we judge things we have no idea about. I don't know if you caught the show that we had on egg freezing and surrogacy and adoption. We had a huge show on that a few weeks ago, and it was very enlightening. But then Whitney talks about the fact that people will still shame you, find a way to shame you. You were telling me a story before we went on air about some of the things that people have said to you. I'd love if you would share some with us. I'm sure there's somebody who's listening who, has gone through the same thing and is just so down about it.
Well, if I must be honest with you, I had majority of shaming before I got married, but not with children issues. I've had a few people showing concern, but I think sometimes it's how they show the concern. They say it as if there is something wrong with you.
And if is it even concern?
Well, we want to assume it is. And it's the way they ask you. Someone just walks up to you and goes like, "Hey, so what is happening? When is the child coming? And how many years now? Oh, it hasn't come. Or is it that you don't want it? Or is it what is the problem? Have you been to the hospital?" You go like,
Wow. These are such personal questions.
I mean, what's your business about my childbirth delaying? What has it got to do with you? Would you donate school fees? What will you do? Will you buy diapers? I mean, so it's none of your business. But I guess that it's just something that society has picked along the way to just is it intentionally or unintentionally intrude into people's privacy without knowing how much these things hurt them. And so sometimes you go home And maybe hitherto you were not thinking about this, but then now you begin to spend some more time thinking, well, then is it really that late? What can I do about this? Then plans, you start thinking, or should I go and see the doctor? Or should we start discussing this? Or should we, you understand? But anyway, I want to say here and now, and I want any lady listening to me to understand, just as the hands are not equal in this life, we will all not get certain things as much as we would wish so much for it. We should understand that just as everyone will not get married, everyone will not also have a child, even if they got married. Now, I would say that because I'm coming from the Christian background, where at least we know that the starting point, if you want to start bearing children, is to get married and have children. Not everybody would even get married. So definitely childbearing is even out of the question for some people. Some too will get married and they won't have. It is a gift from God, and He gives
As He wills.
as He wills. But as Whitney said, you are complete without children. And we all came on this earth with a purpose. And no one came to this earth with the purpose of solely having children. Neither did anybody come to this world sent to marry.
Apart from perhaps Adam and Eve.
Maybe.
Because if they hadn't, then it's like, okay.
Exactly.
But yeah.
So, I mean, we all came here with a divine task, something to do. Find that purpose and fulfill it. If God blesses you with children along the way, praise the Lord. If they don't come, that should not stop you from pursuing your dreams. Because I always tell my friends, especially those who are not married, marriage or no marriage, your life as you goes on. And when you have to stand before that throne to account, you are not accounting for why you didn't get married.
No, you're not.
You're accounting for why you were sent on this earth. So these issues should not become a problem for anybody to now sit down and cry and now think even less of themselves, as trying as it can be. Because sometimes I won't deny that it can be very discouraging. You find maybe a young girl of, let's say, about 25 years old. You saw her grow in the church, then she marries, and then boom, in the first year, that's it. The second year, it's like she just drinks water and gets pregnant.
Yeah.
You know, and then by the time you realize, okay, 3 in chains, and then in about a few years, you see them walking around, and, you know, she has grown children, and
Yeah.
that's it. And then sometimes that girl even thinks that she's superior to you because she has children. You see, but bottom line, it is a blessing from God. He gives as He wills. And until He gives you, pursue your God-given task on this earth.
I love that. I love the way you were so vivid about the description of the 25-year-old girl, because I can really imagine. I mean, what that might feel like. Whitney, let me ask you, why do we as women ourselves place such a premium on our ability to have children when it's actually really not something that's in our control?
Because our society has made it look like a woman either goes to the shop and there's a baby making machine sitting there that she can buy and have a baby. I keep telling a lot of women we encounter, we talk to, that recent research has even shown that there are more men who are infertile. There are more men with issues of infertility than there are women. But I kind of put it at ignorance, that because the woman carries and because a man automatically can get an erection, so we equate erection with his fertile. And that is where a lot of the problem is. And unfortunately, women have received that burden that even in the first place shouldn't be a burden to us. So when society is harassing you 9 months after your wedding, why is there no baby? You have finished school, you have a good job, you're enjoying your life. Why are you not having a baby? as if it's sold in stores and you're not buying one. And that's a lot of mindsets is wrapped around that. Sadly, it is more women who shame women for issues that we shouldn't be shaming each other for parts that we've worked on and we know how it feels. But we are first to shame women. Women are the same who shame other women for having CS, sit in church groups and say that she is not a Hebrew woman enough. So she went the easier way. She chose the easier way. Women are the same who shame even women who are abused and have the courage to walk out of a marriage with their head held high and take their children with them.
Whitney, can
Women
I
are
ask
the
you
same who
something?
shame.
Just sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt. I just want to ask you, where did that narrative come from that a cesarean section is easier than a natural childbirth?
So in the Bible, when the Israelites were leaving Egypt,
Yeah.
they were told that the reason for prior to them leaving Egypt, anytime they had a baby, if it's a male child, they were killing the male children
Yes.
because they didn't want the tribe of Israel to be as powerful and as strong as the Egyptians. So in the Bible, it is said that they were given extra strength. The Hebrew woman was given extra strength when she went to birth so that she will be able to deliver
Quicker.
and carry her baby.
Yeah.
From that narration, as much as we take Bible words literally, what's used as and run with it, then it became the quote of the day that it is okay to say that, oh, when you're going to have a child, I want the strength of the Hebrew woman. But it also does not mean that anybody who does not have a child that way is less of a woman or less of a mother. But unfortunately, and that's why I say that it is a lot of ignorance, and sometimes I even think it's crass because, like you said, how is 7 layers of my body being cut into 2? The first few days when you are told to get down from the bed and walk so you do not clot, you do not have blood clots after CS. When you get down, for anybody who is being through that, you literally feel like your body is halved.
Wow.
And you are trying to walk with that. Yet so much ignorance and crass, and we think that is an easier option. There's nothing easy about any form of childbirth. Nothing easy. I've had both, and there's nothing easy about it. So I don't know why, as women, and I come back to it again, it is women who do it more often. We tend to antagonize each other with things that we should even have pity on. I mean, when somebody says that, look at our hospitals, somebody goes to have a baby and they're saying they're in pain, you get other women telling them that they're being a bit too much about it. Meanwhile, our level of withstanding pain is totally different. What you will feel is painful maybe will be different to somebody. What we are supposed to do is have empathy for each other because we sort of walk along the same paths, and we should know this. I keep telling people that the stuff our mothers say that, oh, when you have a baby, you forget the pain and go back to it. It is not true.
It's not true.
It is just that it is not true. I can close my eyes and remember all the pains I have been through the ones I lost, didn't lose, the ones who survived, and all that. I can still remember it. It's just that we kind of learn how to live through our pains and move on with life. So there are some sayings that we even need to stop saying. When I hear people say on radio that, oh, boko sa war, I get very upset because most of the time, for people who are even saying that, they've never, ever, ever, ever experienced anything like that. But it's become such a crass saying that everybody says it at some point. And I think that we need to, as women, it starts with us. We need to have more empathy towards each other and be more kind towards each other.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you. Because if we stood up for each other, considering that childbirth and the whole 9 months and the birthing process is something that is completely exclusive to women. I think that if women stood up for each other, we would be able to change the way these conversations are had. Because, I mean, I remember when I had my son, I went to the doctor. I came back to Ghana, I went to the doctor here, and he was trying to check and see how I was healing. You know, he was opening me up with that tool and thing, and I was like, ouch. And he was like, oh, it's not that painful. And I was like, how do you know? Do you have a VV? Do you have one?
Oh my God.
I was so upset. I mean, I was lying on the doctor's table with my legs spread open, and this doctor is telling me it's not that painful. Like, what do you know about this?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But obviously, if you have a doctor who's a woman who's had children, you know, even not, because we have all these period pains, we have so many things going on, so you can relate to. Anyway, let me not digress. The point I'm trying to make is that if we women, like Whitney is saying, stood up for each other, these things will end. And now, you know how much I hate to church bash, but I'm coming for the church next, because a lot of us go to church. What are we hearing in church about women having children? You tell me. You probably go to church more than me.
So sometimes the church is even the worst place for some of these things, because they start from when will you get married, and then now when you get married, then now they are looking forward to the children, and then some would come to you directly to ask what is happening. Another one would either die, how do I call it, would disguise it and come and say, oh, afise say, oh, nanta for naba. Afisa say not this, Afisa say not that. So you are just giving the person unnecessary pressure. Some to maybe you went to give an offering for something, or just when you put the money in the offering bowl, by the time you are returning, oh yes, as you have given, oh, may twins be your portion.
Wow, we are dashing twins now.
And then,
wow.
And then you go like, I'm not saying these are my experiences, but I've seen
you've seen them
to
and
people.
also,
yes.
Marilyn, a lot of times I find that when you're in the religious setting and people see you and they want to pray for you, it's almost as if the most important thing in a woman's life
is the children,
is marriage and children.
Yes.
And so as soon as a woman is called forward, or as soon as there's something, it's like, okay, marriage and children, marriage and children, marriage. It has happened to me so many times. There have been so many men of God, stroke prophets, who've called me to pray for me to have children. I'm like, I have children. But your assumption is because I'm walking around without my children, that I don't have. So that also kind of perpetuates your value. Why would you call a woman and not pray for anything other
not
than
pray for money, not pray
for
success.
money, for wealth, for establishment in her career, for long life, but it's children. Why?
It's children. Because it's a societal thing. I think over the years we've just had this narrow mindset of relegating women to the background.
No matter what you do,
until
you have children,
until you marry and have children, you are
worst
not complete.
But worst case, if you can't find a man,
at least have a child.
Did you see the Facebook post? Somebody posted that women who are hitting forwards, if you're not finding a husband,
have a
then
child.
It's time to advise yourself, find somebody's husband and have a child with. Because really, having a child is that.
Yes. And it's even worse when you also now go to the hospitals and then maybe you're growing, but you are not yet married, and you go for a scan and all of a sudden you hear that you have a fibroid. And then so then the doctors also start, so but how old are you thinking of getting married anytime soon? You say, oh, there's nobody yet. Oh well, but so the Christian ones will now start retreating a little, but those who don't necessarily believe in morality will just go by, well, nowadays you don't really need the husband to have a child. So because when the womb is empty, those their explanations. happens. When the womb is empty, that is when
my
the
doctor
fibroid
told me that
comes.
a few months ago. Yeah.
Bam. So at the end of the day, everything is just, it's like for a woman, once you don't have a child, there are so many things that can happen.
But if
to
a
you.
woman comes to the hospital with a fibroid, is the only cure having a child?
And because when we remove it, your womb will still be idle. But the womb must be filled. You don't get it.
Sembing. Wow. Whitney, let's move on to responses. What do you feel are some of the adequate responses that we need to start having as women when we are confronted with this whole baby shaming thing from society to the church? How do we respond?
I am one of those people who I am as blunt as they come. My close friends keep saying that I can never be a politician because if my mouth doesn't say it, my eyes will say it, and it's either black or white. So I equip women to, because people have no decorum. So you need to get to a point where what they say to you is not a reflection of who you are. Else, if you do not take time, you start becoming a reflection of what everybody says and become a shell of who you are. So people need to own their single lives. I am not yet at the stage where I want to have a baby. Listen, when my husband and I, when we were going through our journey before we had kids, it got to a time, if anybody asked him that, oh, so why are the babies not in? He will tell them that, oh, God knows children are expensive. So he's waiting for him to make a little more money, then we can have the children. On the other hand, I would ask you, are you bringing me money? Are you going to buy the formula? Are you going to buy the diapers? Because I am not going to have a baby and be half about anything I want for my children. So if you are neither going to give me this or that, then you are no contributing factor of how I should live my life. People have, at a point, people said, oh, it's because she likes wearing high heels. That's why the babies are not coming. It's because she works a lot. That's why people will find every and any reason to talk. A church where you think you will get sympathy. I mean, what the lady said, very true. There are times when you even go for baby showers and baby christening, and if you don't have a baby, some go as far as they will take somebody's baby and touch your stomach with it and say that, oh, in a year's time it will be your portion and all that. Sometimes they don't even know that you just suffered a miscarriage. Sometimes they don't even know that, listen, it is not in my plans. And these are people that it's not like they have their lives. If people really have their lives figured, they won't be so concerned about other people's lives. I keep saying this thing. If you have your life figured, you know what is going on in your life. There are things that shouldn't concern you. There's a thin line between you showing concern about somebody's life and you just not having any decorum or minding your business. And people need to stop wallowing in self-pity and know that, like I said, they are so phenomenal, they are whole, with or without a baby or a husband. So that if somebody says it to you, I have taught my boys how, when people are mean to them, they should respond back and ask the people that, what you're saying to me, if I say same to you, how would you feel? And it's the same. It's because in a society, we are trained as very Ghanaian, where you are supposed to be very polite even when you're being hurt. And that needs to stop. People need to mind their wombs and mind their own business.
I was just looking up the Bible quote that says mind your own business, because every time I say, people say that's not in the Bible. But before we go on a break, let me give you work. Go open your Bible. Those of you that you've made it your point to be asking people when they're having children, and read First Thessalonians chapter 4, 11 to 12. It says, make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. You should mind your own business. Mind your own business. About whether people are getting married, whether people are having children, especially things that are that sensitive. As people having children and people, I mean, even the Bible again says that the same way that we do not know how the bones come together of a child in a woman's womb is the same way that we don't know the ways of God, which means that it's not something that you have control over. So can you leave people who are not having children alone? Like, can you just leave us alone? We'll be back right after this break. This is still Strong and Sassy. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. This is Strong and Sassy here on your superstation, Joy 99.7 FM. My name's Animwaa Anim-Addo, and we're talking about baby shaming. We're talking about those of you that you have made it your point, that you are going to be asking women when they're having children, why they have had children, and accusing people of wearing high heels, which is why they are not having children.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they'll just walk up to you. Hair heels, no shake a crass. And your will be to me and what you say.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
Amazing. Okay, so I told you guys earlier that we had Adolf on. It feels so weird to say there's a man on the show, but anyways, Adolf is on. Adolf, we just want to have a quick chit chat about the mental health side of all of this, because as Ghanaians, right, no matter how tough things get, we say, oh, bibi abeye, oh, it's in God's hands. And so a lot of times we hide our mental health issues underneath that cloak of, we're going to be fine and everything is okay. But I just want you to take us briefly through what it could mean for a woman who is having this internal battle with not being able to have children yet, and obviously the pressure that society puts on her as well.
Well, thank you very much, Animwaa, for having me. I've been listening in intently, and I appreciate all the points that have been made. Of course, there are mental health consequences to the experiences of not having a child because of all the pressures that you earlier talked about. So not having a child becomes a stressor, particularly for women. And the experience is gendered simply because we think that in our society, whether a family, a couple will have children or not, it depends on the woman. But as we've heard this evening on the show, infertility cuts both ways, and men equally go through that experience, contribute to infertility as well. So the most important thing is about stigma. How do you contend with stigma? Because you are reduced to nothing, as if you don't matter. You live in a society where you are growing up, but you are not grown, quote unquote. Because one marker of becoming an adult, one sociocultural factor of becoming an adult is getting married and having children. And if you are a woman and you haven't really met this criteria, society looks down upon you. They even deny you your role in the family. They may be conferring with your younger sisters, younger brothers who have children and will be sidelining you. What does that do? It means you are alienated from your society, and that will lead to you alienating yourself. That is a serious mental health consequences. Of course, not having children and being ridiculed. And because of the high value we place on having children, most marriages break down because of this fact. So there is marital instability. The bulk of it affects that falls on women. Why? Because for women have been socialized to feel that without marriage and without having children, they are not complete, as our sister just talked about. So that really, really affects women's psychological well-being. And of course, there is depression. Can you imagine going through all of this? Your within your own family, your in-laws, everybody is at you. You begin to think that you are the reason why some of this are happening. You cannot sleep. Sadly, some women would even take their own life as a result of the humiliation that they suffer. They will go through all manner of difficulties and drudgery just so that they can give birth. So we are not even sensitive to the mental health toll this experience have for women in particular. So yes, the reason why it is such a big deal is because of the value we place on our children in our society. Remember, as a society, we are very pronatal. Children are of extreme value, economically, psychologically, and spiritually. What do we say? Children are a blessing from God. So if you don't have one, have you been blessed or not?
Or not, yeah.
I want children so that they can continue my legacy. If you don't have one, can you be relied on or not? And then there is that utilitarian value. Who will take care of me in my old age? But apart from the kind of social security connotation that some people will place on children. So putting all of this together, it presents a serious mental health challenge for women. When I was getting ready for this show, and I think as a way of helping, particularly women in dealing with this, the support from their husbands is very critical. It's very critical. You know, a brother just told me whilst I was getting ready for the show that they had an issue like that. For 10 years, they didn't have children. But he was very sensitive, so he was supporting the wife. His mother realized something was quote unquote wrong after 2 years and called him, "My son, what is happening?" And then he took his time and explained to his mother that, okay, this is between me and my wife. Okay? And the mother understood, and the mother provided the support. That is the man's mother. Unfortunately, the woman's mother was the one who was the problem. So if we're going to deal with this honestly, then as a whole society, we must begin to really change the narratives that are pervasive,
Right.
putting so much pressure on women.
Okay. I get that. Thank you so much for your contribution. And like you said, it's every battle can't be fought and won by women alone. And I absolutely love it when I hear men coming, to the defense of their families and their wives. Let's take a few of the messages, and then we're running out of time, unfortunately. But this one says, "Good evening, SNS crew. On this topic, I don't understand our society, but I I firmly stand with Tupac. And since a man can't make one, he has no right to tell a woman when and where to create one." That's from Neo Dote. Vincent says, "The way Mother's Day is celebrated, especially in churches, is a form of baby shaming. They have a way of making women feel with no children feel inadequate or incomplete." Francis says, "Are we not past that thinking? Ghanaians are copying everything from the West. So why are they not learning how Western women opt not to have children? I'm thinking we should promote against that mentality." Okay. The majority of people are dissatisfied with who they are and what they've got. They just want to be in competition with you. Why won't we just be happy for each other? Okay. Majority of Africans are brainwashed through their traditional religious and cultural practices that every human must marry and birth children. This is the root cause of stigma. Meanwhile, the reality is not everyone is meant to marry or have children. Some will have both, others will have one, and some none. Not everything practiced by our forefathers did us good, and this is one of them. Till the majority begin to unlearn this archaic conditioning and relearn reality, the stigma won't stop. The solution starts by addressing the stated above root cause. Another is, if anyone asks you when you'll have a child or marry, reply with a smile, "I will when you die." And they won't ask you again. Nana Kwesi, that's a good one. Anima, can you repeat the Bible quotation? Don't worry, it will be the benediction for today's show. So, please share. Okay, share. Okay, so I'll share the Bible. So Marilyn, we have about 5 minutes. I'll give you 2 minutes, and then I'll give Whitney 2 minutes as well. I could see that you were taking notes. So do you just want to share your final thoughts on?
Yes. So anymore, I just want to encourage every woman out there that sometimes God deprives us of certain things to be able to allow us to help others. If the world was perfect with everything in it, then of course we wouldn't need doctors, we wouldn't need anybody.
Yeah.
Yes. So there are orphans out there who need help. Let's help them. That is why probably he has not given you one yet, to be a blessing to another person. And sometimes it's even out of being a blessing to another person that he also gives you one. Also bear in mind that some people have struggled for this, and at the end of the day have even died in the process.
Yeah.
Some have also had children, and either they are special needs children. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that that's a problem that some people have inherited. They wanted children, yes, through no fault of theirs. They had special needs children. Now every day they are spending huge sums to be able to take care of these children. I mean, if you were in that person's shoes, I'm sure you would tell yourself, it's okay, then I don't even want this. Another person would have given birth, the child grows up to about 23 and suddenly dies. Investment gone waste. So do we have to rush for anything? Let's be content with where we are in life, knowing that God has got us, and there is always a perfect reason for why things are happening.
So, hey, Marilyn, you kill me. Whitney, your final thoughts, please, on the topic.
Every woman was born beautiful, whole, phenomenal. In your paths and journeys of life, you come into encounters with school and all that comes with it. You get a certificate. That's a compliment and blessing of life. You get married. You do not get married. You have a child. It's all blessings. But prior to that, you need to put it at the back of your mind that you were whole, you were phenomenal before all the additional blessings came. You were blessed in your own way. These things do not define you. The marriage, children, it does not define you. What defines you is who you are, the impact you leave on society. And we need to stop shaming each other as women. We need to stop saying things that we know that if it's said to us, we will get hurt. Before you say something to somebody, taste your words and see if they really taste nice. We need to have some sort of decorum when we are talking to people, because we never know what people are going through.
Much for that, Whitney. And if you're listening to us and you've been believing God to speak to you and he hasn't spoken to you this evening, he's speaking to you. Make it your ambition to lead a quiet life and mind your own business. 1 Thessalonians 4:11. My name is Animwaa Anim-Addo. A big thank you to Whitney Boachimensa, Marilyn Suta, and Adolphe Ewuku-Bekwing. Maxwell Adbadba is coming up with the 8 o'clock news. If you missed the conversation, you can go to my Facebook. I'll post the 1 Thessalonians there so that you can find it. And if you haven't listened to my song, why? It's on YouTube. So check it out. We'll be back next week. Thank you to the whole team and see you guys next week. Stay safe.